The House will come to order. Representative Duran.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the call of the House.
The call of the House has been requested. 10 or more members must now stand. Plenty of hands. Thank you. The motion is properly sustained. Will the sergeants please close and lock the doors? Mr. Reader, which is Mr. Gregorio. Sorry about that. Turn on the chimes. Members, push your buttons and indicate your presence. Mr. Gregorio, please call the names of those who are absent. Will the sergeants please locate the members who are missing?
Representatives Arndt, Bacon, Bockenfeld, Caraveo, Geithner, Gonzalez Gutierrez, Gray, Luck,
Representative Duran.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the call be lifted.
Thank you, Representative Duran. It has been moved that the call be raised. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The call is raised. The call is raised. All right. So the next order of business is continuation of general orders. Representative Tipper. You have heard the motion. If there's no objection, Representative Tipper will take the chair.
Ready. All right, the committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there's a request for reading a bill at length. Committee reports are printed in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader. And the quote rule, of course, is relaxed.
Thank you, love. We're here for you. We're going for 5 o'clock.
Mr. Gregorio, will you please read the title of Senate Bill 41?
Senate Bill 41 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Corrections.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 41 on second reading.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, welcome to our supplemental package. I want to start first by congratulating Majority Leader Eskar. She's bringing her own little supplemental tonight.
Please stick to the bill, Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 41 is a truing up of our Department of Corrections budget. It includes a technical adjustment. It includes a technical adjustment of $208,854 general funds, as well as $46,000 in reappropriated funds for our annual depreciation lease equivalent payments, along with an adjustment to indirect cost adjustments. I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 41? Seeing none, the question for the House is the adoption of Senate Bill 41. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. 41 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill, Majority Leader Eskar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 42 until after Senate Bill 55.
Senate Bill 42 will be laid over until later in the calendar. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 43.
Senate Bill 43 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 43 on second reading.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Folks, this is our largest supplemental bill of the night. It involves the Healthcare Policy and Financing Department. In particular, this supplemental helps us true up our adjustments in caseload and over expenditure restrictions due to both the increase and decrease that we see in Medicaid caseload over fiscal year 1920 as well as fiscal year 2021. It also includes additional funding for the public health emergency extension because we see a federal match increase. That helps offset some of our expenses as a state on Medicaid. Very pleased to have those additional funds coming towards the state. There are a variety of smaller adjustments to HCPUF's budget, which include restoration of the Family Medicine Residency Training Program, funding for the Nurse Advice Hotline, Public School Health Services True-Up, and the Connect for Health Colorado, our Medicaid eligibility service that helps more individuals access Medicaid. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 43? Seeing none, question for the House is the adoption of Senate Bill 43. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 43 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 44.
Senate Bill 44 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Human Services.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 44 on second reading.
The bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You will see true-ups in our budget for the Department of Human Services, both CCDF CARES funding, because we received federal funding this year to help support child care services in the state. We received adjustments in, again, fiscal year 1920 as well as fiscal year 20 and 21. We have also seen some caseload adjustments in the Department of Youth Services, much like we have seen in DOC and in community corrections. With that, members, I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 44? Seeing none, question for us is the adoption of Senate Bill 44. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 44 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 45.
Senate Bill 45 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Judicial Department.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 45 on second reading.
The bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, a number of true-up adjustments. We see those both in the Office of Respondent Parents Council as well as the Office of the Alternative Defense Council. With that, members, I urge an aye vote.
Question for us is the adoption of Senate Bill 45, and seeing no folks that want to speak on the bill. All those in favor of Senate Bill 45 say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Senate Bill 45 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 46.
Senate Bill 46 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Law.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 46 on second reading.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Department of Law, two very small adjustments related to the para-direct distribution as well as Consumer Credit Unit letter note technical adjustment. With that, I urge an aye vote, members.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 46? Seeing none, question for us is the adoption of Senate Bill 46. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 46 passes. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of Senate Bill 111.
We'll proceed out of order. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 111.
Senate Bill 111 by Senators Moreno and Gonzalez, also Representatives Harrod and Ortiz, concerning the creation of a program to support entrepreneurs in the marijuana industry.
Representative Ortiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
An honor to serve with you.
I move Senate Bill 21-111 with no committee reports.
To the bill.
All right. I sit here and support and urge an aye vote on Senate Bill 21-111, program to support marijuana cannabis entrepreneurs. I remember when recreational use of marijuana was legalized in Colorado. Newly injured and at Craig Hospital, still in the service, and though it didn't directly impact me personally, I remember my first thoughts. One, thank God, because we know communities of color are over-policed and over-prosecuted for drug offenses that are now legal. The second thought was good. I still have relatives that live in Mexico, and I know the more states that legalize recreational marijuana, the harder hit narcotraficantes in Latin America will be. Those individuals are murderers that kill civilians, reporters, that bribe elected leaders, and that traffic humans and funnel money to international terrorism. So even though I was excited for those reasons, as time went on, I realized I was hearing the same old tune of exclusion, but just in a different venue. Colorado has created a thriving voter-approved, government-regulated cannabis industry. However, the economic gains and jobs created across Colorado have not included very specific communities. It's clear that the communities that have been impacted by unfair drug laws, propagated by a misguided, ineffective war on drugs, a war against our own people, which again disproportionately impacted communities of color, have not been able to take part in the economic growth driven by our legal cannabis industry. People of color have faced higher rates of arrest on marijuana charges, and research shows that this has persisted even after the end of the prohibition in Colorado. A recent 2020 survey found that 75% of cannabis business owners in Denver area were white. Greater than half survey respondents, 57%, rated the opportunity for ownership as poor, and 77% cited access to capital as the biggest barrier to entry. Last year, we started to right this injustice by allowing those Coloradans who were wrongly impacted by the war on drugs to now participate in this industry. This bill takes the next step, though, by providing critical resources and technical business development know-how to our communities that have been negatively impacted by drug laws. By focusing on underserved communities recovering from decades of the war on drugs, this program would open up pathways for small businesses and those wishing to create new businesses in Colorado's cannabis industry. This bill will help Colorado build back stronger and recover faster by creating jobs and forging a more inclusive cannabis industry. I urge an aye vote.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
An honor to serve with you, Representative Harrod.
I'm proud to bring this bill with my good colleague, Representative Ortiz. Members, this bill just builds on the great work of the General Assembly in the past year, where now Senator Coleman introduced the concept of social equity licensees and participants, alongside of our colleague from Mesa County, Representative Soper. And this basically just allows that social equity program to make sense and have legs. Specifically, what this program will do is provide loans, grants, and technical assistance for social equity participants to meaningfully participate in the cannabis industry. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Gray. / Representative Sane. That was.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would also speak out in favor of this bill and ask for an aye vote here. You know, we did a lot of work in putting investment into our cannabis industry and opening up the capital markets last year and the year before, and I did a ton of work in that space, but our promise was always that we were going to also view it through the lens of equity and not just make sure that one community or another was able to benefit from this. So I think this is a fantastic bill. I appreciate Representatives Ortiz and Harrod for bringing it, and I think it is a good coda on top of the work that we've done in investment so far, and I'd ask for your support.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill? Oh, Representative Soper. And Representative Will?
Merci, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
An honor to serve with you.
So we certainly come down here to rise in opposition of this supplemental. Yeah, absolutely. The one industry that definitely was not impacted by COVID-19 was the marijuana industry. I mean, they certainly had just about the best year ever on record, whether it was in Colorado or elsewhere, because one thing that people enjoyed a lot when they were at home quarantining was alcohol and marijuana. And why should we be increasing opportunities for entrepreneurs when this is an industry that is probably one of the easiest to get into, especially one of the most lucrative? So that's why.
I'll say I enjoyed neither of those two things while in quarantine. And Representative Harrod might want to take back some of her kudos to you. Representative Will. And are we moving an amendment, gentlemen, or are we just down at the well? Okay. Representative Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you. And
Likewise.
I move Amendment L001 to Senate Bill 111 and ask that it be displayed.
Okay, Amendment L001 has been moved and is properly displayed. Representative Will to Amendment L001.
So this amendment's for the costs incurred by the Division of Parks and Wildlife and the Department of Natural Resources for the wolf reintroduction program created in Section 32-105.8, and we're asking that $3.5 million is appropriated to the Department of Natural Resources for use by the Division of Parks and Wildlife. Appropriation is from the marijuana tax fund, obviously. It's for the reintroduction of wolves.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also rise in support of this amendment because, after all, in November, Proposition 114 passed, and we believe it is definitely important that the funding for introducing wolves to Colorado does not come from sportsmen's dollars, but comes from elsewhere. And it seems very appropriate that it comes from marijuana dollars. And that's what we're doing here.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representatives, interesting amendment. So members, the context here is that recently in the Energy and Environment Committee, we had a pretty robust debate about how the state is going to express and manage the will of the voters in Proposition 114, and that's kind of what this is tapping into. However, given that the title of Senate Bill 111, which is before us, is concerning the creation of a program to support entrepreneurs in the marijuana industry, and nothing about wolves, I ask the chair for a ruling whether this in fact fits under the title.
The committee will stand in brief recess. The committee will come back to order. The chair in her infinite wisdom rules that the amendment does not fall under the title. Back to the bill. Do we have any further discussion on Senate Bill 111? Seeing none, the question for us is the adoption of, I called the question, no? Representative Larson.
I'm sorry, the amendment or the bill?
We are back to the bill. I called the question, but I will allow you some leeway. Representative Larson.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I rise in opposition to this bill. When we legalized marijuana, it was for a very clear purpose. It was to fund education. That is what was promised. That was what was campaigned upon. Now we are literally deviating the marijuana cash fund money, which again, granted we have a long and illustrious history of using this on non-education related things. But if you go back to the campaign to legalize marijuana, the entire premise was it was going to fund schools. This bill is taking money from marijuana sales and shoveling it back into the industry. It is not in the spirit of legalization. It is not in the spirit of funding our schools. Vote no. This is not a pressing need.
Seeing no further discussion on Senate Bill 111. Okay, one more time. If you're in the well and want to discuss the bill, please. I've called the question twice. Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate you recognizing me and the opportunity to talk just a little bit more on this bill. We certainly had a good conversation about our amendment, but still going back to the issue at hand, it just seems to me that it's a bit challenging at this point in time to be putting money towards marijuana entrepreneurs when so many other businesses have taken a hit during the pandemic, and that we really ought to be focusing on other industries and other businesses that are really struggling, and those individuals who certainly could have an opportunity to get into business. Certainly for social equity and helping those individuals get in there, I think a lot of us certainly would be in support of that element, but this is far more inclusive and actually, quite frankly, a lot of money to be putting towards people who are just starting in the business of marijuana, which is a very, very, very lucrative business. It's not like other businesses like starting a restaurant business right now where there would be a lot of risk. And so once again, I would just urge a no vote on this supplemental. Thank you.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to my colleague from Mesa County, first I want to thank you for acknowledging the need for the social equity licensee. I understand some of your other points and I want to clarify them. This creates some technical assistance, but also a loan fund, so that funding, once paid back, goes back into the state and replenishes the program. This is not free money to marijuana or cannabis entrepreneurs. Additionally, for those of you all who don't know, because we have historically left people out of the conversation and the industry and then changed our mind as Colorado and said, wait, you can enter the industry now. We have created a marketplace where people can't enter in, especially if they don't have the same connections and investors as some of our other counterparts, specifically social equity partners. And so what this bill does is it creates that loan fund, right? So that we can actually help people get into the industry, which, by the way, a cannabis license can run you from $250,000 to $1 million just to get into the industry. So they need this type of loan fund to get into the industry. It does not create new licenses. It does not create new opportunities necessarily. What it does is it says if you are an entrepreneur, maybe you want to create packaging that goes along with some of this, with some of the cannabis. And we know that that's not very sustainable packaging that we're using. You could actually apply to the state for that loan fund if you're a social equity applicant and start your business. So yes, we hope that they are successful. And when they are, the money goes back to the state and goes back into the loan fund. This is a small amount of money for, quite frankly, a big need that we need to fund in the state of Colorado to right some of our previous wrongs. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Soper.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And it's great to be able to come back down here. One point that I certainly would like to make with this is, you know, Senate Bill 47 is traveling with the supplementals, but in looking at what the votes were in the Joint Budget Committee, this is not technically a supplemental because there at least were 2 members on the Joint Budget Committee who voted against this. And I wondered if you might just give us a little bit of an insight into why that was or why this particular bill is traveling with the supplementals.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your question. The answer to your question is there are bills that were not unanimous out of the Joint Budget Committee that you will still see on the floor here today because we find that they have a stimulative effect, and we need to move those bills through right now. Of course, it doesn't say it's a supplemental, so it's not a supplemental bill, but it has run through the same process alongside of the supplementals. I ask for an aye vote still.
Any further discussion? Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I have a few questions for the bill sponsors here, and I'm just trying to understand specifically who's eligible for the social equity licenses. And after doing a little bit of my own research here, I finally got to a point where they kind of list out the who could be considered as a social equity licensee. And you know, from the comments that you were making introducing the bill itself, you talked about helping people who traditionally have been disproportionately impacted by the drug war or similar situations like that. And I was wondering if you could speak to who specifically this would apply to, because I think the implication is there are certain minority groups that this could apply to, but I was wondering if there was a broader group of people, or if everyone could actually be considered for this if they meet these criteria. I guess, I don't know.
I'm just saying you pulled it for me.
Right. Go ahead.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate that question. The intent for a social equity licensee or applicant is one who has been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs and disproportionately incarcerated for low-level offenses, or communities have been targeted for those low-level offenses. And so it looks like, and I appreciate you pulling the statute, the qualifications are Colorado resident, has not been a beneficial owner of a license subject to disciplinary action or legal action by the state, so meaning they have not had any violations with their current license, has demonstrated at least one of the following: 15 years of residency in Colorado, that their parent, legal guardian, sibling, spouse, child, or minor in their guardianship was arrested for a marijuana offense that would now be deemed legal. Applicant's household income in the prior year to the application did not exceed the amount determined by rule of a state license authority. And they must hold at least a 51% stakehold in the business. So to your point, it's not just for people of color. It is for those who have been targeted by this war on drugs. And then just by way of history, when Colorado legalized cannabis, we said that you couldn't have a conviction within a certain time frame. And that basically kicked out a whole bunch of folks out of the industry when it was just getting started, when they could actually be successful and enter into the industry when there was more opportunity for profit and more opportunity for entry. And so this does right that wrong. But to your point, it does not only apply to people of color.
Representative Williams and then Holter.
Thank you, Representative Harrod. This actually makes a little bit more sense because I knew there was confusion a little bit in the Senate chamber when there was a debate on this. And I think, if I'm understanding this correctly, the marijuana offense really gets to the prior conviction rather, gets to the heart of what we're discussing. Because traditionally and through statistically, the war on drugs, there has been a disproportional impact on communities of color because they're the ones that have been arrested more so than other communities. Is that right? So that's how it speaks to these communities. Am I right?
That's accurate.
Okay. All right. That was my only question. Thank you very much.
Representative Holter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, esteemed colleagues. I came here this afternoon to vote on supplemental budget adjustments for departments within the state of Colorado. I thought that's what we were here to do, to make sure those departments had the money they needed to fund their activities. But now I stand before you talking about this pet project that does not address supplemental needs of our Colorado departments. I'm not going to debate the merits of the injustices or the need. What I will talk to is the fact that we are here trying to carve out funding for a special interest, for a special program for this particular issue. I really, as I think through this, I'm a little confused. Because this isn't a supplemental for any department. Now, in my district, in House District 64, I hear a clamor for funding for schools. K through 12. Funding for support for school lunches and special programs and even breakfast before class programs. For the kids that are out there that have families that are underprivileged and underserved and have economic disparity. Now we're talking about $5 million to go into this special project for an entirely different thing that has very little to do with the supplemental budget. So, we call this the calf getting under the wire. Now it's running through the pasture. I'm not sure, but I will tell you, and I've asked my colleagues to draft an amendment, and I'm not saying this isn't worthy of funding or support, but we're to talk about supplemental budgets and filling those departments with the money they need to true up, as our JBC members told me, to true up those budgets. Well, how does this true up anything? Nothing against my esteemed colleagues. I will tell you there's probably a need for this, and there's a time for this. But is the time today, when we're talking about supplemental budgets? Now, I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that if I had an extra $5 million floating around, and I was on the JBC, I would take that money and put it right in K through 12. Now, granted, that might be my perspective as a rural legislator, But I will tell you, even after we do these supplemental approvals, even after we go back to our districts, I will have school superintendents, I will have school principals, and I will have teachers that tell me they still don't have enough money to do the thing they need to do in education. But we're going to pull $5 million out and put it over here in this special project, which in my humble opinion has nothing to do with truing up supplemental budgets. So I don't get it. I don't understand why we're even talking about this right now. I think this is a pet project, perhaps by somebody on the JBC. I don't know.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, one, I want to say that we have at least 6, 7, or 8 bills on the agenda tonight that are not supplemental. So at least anyone is confused, that is what we're doing here tonight. They were all posted on the calendar in plenty of time to review and understand the difference between a supplemental and a regular bill. We also heard other bills earlier today. So, to be clear, we are not only considering supplementals tonight. And I understand also why you're confused about the pet projects, but I want to remind you, we debated puppies, I believe, yesterday. So the pets and the pet stores was all debated yesterday. Today, we're focusing on stimulating our economy. And this bill is specifically a request from the department to ensure that a program that we put in place has the funding to actually work and implement the policies that we have asked them to implement. So, this is appropriate. This is what we do in this body. We are not only debating supplementals tonight. I do ask for an aye vote.
I have Rep. Carver on deck, but Representative Holtorf, I'll let you respond to continue that dialogue. Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question to the bill sponsor is which department requested this and under what conditions? If it's a true up to a budget, did they feel they were $5 million short in their budget requirements, or is this for an additional program and a special project or pet project by a specific constituent group that is promoting the additional $5 million to enhance their programs? I still have the concern that I stated earlier, and I'll continue to talk about the children of Colorado and those kids that need their education and the school districts that don't have enough money to do all the programs that they want. Is today the day we take $5 million away from that program, which we could true up or plus up K through 12 in the Department of Education? And we could meet the needs, in my humble opinion, critical needs for the children in this state, K through 12, that have already suffered and are struggling under a COVID-19 environment. I really believe that at this day, the place we're placing these funds is not the most appropriate utilization of our state funds as we true up and supplement those activities that a state government is required to do under our Constitution. Nothing against the bill sponsors, but I don't believe at this time and this place, this early in our legislative cycle, we should be talking about this ahead of everything else that we have to do, including almost every department that we haven't even talked about yet. In my humble opinion, as a junior legislator, this probably should have been done at the end, after we had met the needs and also entertained all of the amendments for every other department in this state. I cannot overstate this. I'm disappointed that we are here super elevating this issue in front of every other department that has not been heard and every other amendment that we have not entertained to support those departments.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to, I move Amendment L003 and ask that it be displayed.
Amendment L003 has been moved.
I was thinking behind you, sorry.
Give me just 1 second, Representative. And is now properly displayed.
David? No, you go.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment would take $3,900,000 of the amount that is to go towards the social equity licensing for marijuana startups. Instead, would take the bulk of the funding to fund additional drug addiction and treatment programs throughout the state. I am in my 7th year in the legislature. Every year, we have talked about the unmet need in drug addiction treatment and counseling, substance abuse disorders, and the woeful lack of treatment that is available in this state. So with respect, members, I simply believe that this is a higher priority for this money and would ask for your aye vote.
Any further discussion on Amendment L003? Representative Ortiz.
Esteemed members, I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Any further discussion? Representative Soper. You look-
Thank you, Madam Chair. And also, I want to apologize to my colleague for nearly taking him out. I too rise in support of this amendment. This is a very, very good amendment because one thing that we've all talked about a lot down here is the need for more resources for drug treatment programs, and that's exactly what this amendment does. So I ask for a yes vote. Thank you.
Representative Holtorf.
Madam Chair, I rise in strong support of this amendment. If you want to make an investment, I believe, today in what we face in our society, it is my humble opinion that the $5 million, or this carved out in this amendment, as I look at it, $4 million, strike $4,100,000, then the rest of that money is going to go to treating those that are afflicted by drugs, is an incredibly impactful investment. Once again, nothing against the bill sponsors, nothing against the intent. But for those of us that have lived, and many of us have in this room, the impacts of drug addiction, for those of us that have carried our girlfriend's brother in their vehicle to the emergency room with a heroin needle sticking out of their arm, almost dead, they understand this investment. For those of us that had their best friend in high school kill himself because of his drug addiction, they understand this investment. I understand this investment. I've got this personal scars in my life to understand this investment, and that is why I support this amendment and encourage all of you to rethink what we're doing here. Nothing against the bill sponsors. I think that investment is worthy also. I'm not going to deny that. But is today the day to invest that money? That's a big question for us. If we care about humanity, let's talk about where that investment is most needed and really be thoughtful about what we're doing here in this moment in time with what I consider a significant amount of money. I greatly respect my colleague from Colorado Springs, and I respect this thoughtful investment in our individuals that do have and struggle with drug addiction as we try to get them back into our society. So thank you for this amendment, and I do support this amendment very strongly and wholeheartedly, and I encourage all of you to reconsider this amendment as we move forward.
Any further discussion on Amendment L003? Seeing none, the question before the House is the adoption of Amendment L003. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. The amendment fails. Back to the bill, Senate Representative Van Winkle. I almost demoted you. I apologize.
It's okay. I've been confused for Casey Becker once today, Madam Chair, so it's a high honor. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I was hoping that amendment would pass, but if it didn't, then this money really should stay in the marijuana tax cash fund. And the reason for that is because the Marijuana Enforcement Division is going to, the more people that get involved in the industry, the more workers we have, that increases the workload on our very hard workers at the Marijuana Enforcement Division. They do very good work over there, and they're the ones that ensure that our marijuana industry in Colorado is on the up and up. Their books are matching up. Things are in the seed to sale tracking system. The Marijuana Enforcement Division works very hard, and if this money at all is being taken out of the Marijuana Enforcement Division for this purpose, it is something that I cannot support, and I really hope that you will join me in voting no against this and yes on amendments such as the one that just came before. Thank you, Representative Soper.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L004 and ask that it be properly displayed.
Thank you. Amendment L004 has been moved and it is now displayed. Please tell us about your amendment, Representative Soper.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. So it's really important if we're talking about entrepreneurs and helping those individuals that we actually put it in the area that concerns education, which would be towards the University of Colorado's research and education addressing cannabis and health. I believe that the university setting is definitely the most appropriate place for these funds, and then there's still $500,000 that's left there for direct help for these entrepreneurs as well. So to me, it's really important that you at least have education before you're going down this path, and I would ask for a yes vote.
Any further discussion on Amendment L004? Seeing none, question 4 is the adoption of L004. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no? No. Amendment fails. Back to the bill. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 111? Seeing none, question 4 is the adoption of Senate Bill 111. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Division was called shortly before. No? I called the question already. I apologize. Continuing the question for us, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Senate Bill 111 is passed. Thank you, Robin. Okay. Mr. Gregorio, can you please read the title to Senate Bill 47?
Senate Bill 047 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Natural Resources.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 47 on second reading.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the easiest supplemental before you today. It's a technical letter note adjustment. With that, I've asked for an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 47? Seeing none, question 4 is the adoption of Senate Bill 47. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Senate Bill 47 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 48.
Senate Bill 048 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Personnel.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 48 on second reading.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 48 is our supplemental bill for the Department of Personnel. It provides a subsidy to the Organizational Effectiveness Program. This program has been impacted by the lack of availability to our state employees during a pandemic. It's a great program that provides leadership training and professional development for state employees. We'd like to see the program going, and with that, I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 48? Seeing none, question 4 says the adoption of Senate Bill 48. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 48 passes. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 49 until after Senate Bill 53.
Senate Bill 49 will be laid over. Mr. Gregorio, could you please read the title to Senate Bill 50?
Senate Bill 50 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of State.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 50 on second reading.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is our supplemental for the Department of the State. It provides an election reimbursement for our first ever presidential primary. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And folks, I actually also encourage an aye vote on this bill. This is to reimburse the counties for the expenses they had. So this is to reimburse the county clerks and recorders that ran the elections and to make sure that they are able to proceed as they need to. So I urge an aye vote on this bill.
Any further discussion? Senate Bill 50. Seeing none, the question before the House is the adoption of Senate Bill 50. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. No. Senate Bill 50 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 51.
Senate Bill 51 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of the Treasury.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 51.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for our Department of the Treasury. It is a reversal of the 5% reduction in personal services due to a calculation error, as well as funding for our unclaimed property trust fund to support the planned move from out of their leased space. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 51? Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hey, folks, I actually also encourage an aye vote on this bill as well. Those unclaimed property moving funds, they are it's 6,000 plus that they used to move some of the property around, and they needed to use an outside vendor for that. So it really is, this is actually a good bill. It increases by a very small amount, but we vetted this very carefully in JBC, and I urge an aye vote on this bill.
Any further discussion? Senate Bill 51. Seeing none, question 4 says the adoption of Senate Bill 51. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. So enthusiastic. Thank you, Representative Neville. Senate Bill 51 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 52.
Senate Bill 52 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning funding for capital construction and making supplemental appropriations in connection therewith.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 52 on second reading.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is our capital construction true-up, and you will see throughout the numerous projects that we've listed here, extension of spending authority on several different projects. CDPHE Superfund Sites Cleanup, University of Northern Colorado Campus Commons, the MSU Aerospace Engineering Sciences Project, the Newborn Screening Laboratory at CDPHE, and I want to point out that some of the funding here is, we want to thank our members of the CBAC who informed the JBC about the need for capital security upgrades. There'll be $8 million in cash funds going to the Capital Complex Master Plan Implementation Fund for some of those security upgrades. We also will see an investment at the Buena Vista Correctional Facility for the Take 2 expansion to help accommodate manufacturing and production companies to help our clients in Buena Vista earn and learn those job skills to help them enter the workforce successfully. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 52? Seeing none. Question 4 says the adoption of Senate Bill 52. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 52 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 53.
Senate Bill 53 by Senator Moreno and Zenziger, also Representatives McCluskey and McLaughlin, concerning adjustments to school funding for the 2020-21 budget year and in connection therewith making appropriations.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 53 on second reading and the report from Appropriations, Committee report from Appropriations.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the Appropriations Committee, we did make a technical amendment to make sure that our charter schools authorized through CSI were receiving the correct appropriation. I urge an aye vote.
Question 4 is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The committee report passes. Back to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 53 is our annual true-up of school funding for the school districts and charter schools in our state. Our school districts, our educators, our teachers, our students have certainly faced a very challenging year. In light of the pandemic, school classrooms were disrupted. There has been a significant increase in remote and virtual learning. Our educators have responded with great heart and creativity and been able to meet the needs of their students, continue learning, whether it be in or out of the classroom in these very challenging times. We saw students find alternatives to the typical classroom environment. We saw a number of families decide to keep their young, almost kindergartners home for a year. Those students we hope to see and plan to see next fall as soon as our schools are back to normal operations. We also saw families choose, because of the pandemic, to keep their students at home, choose alternative approaches to learning this year. So there was a reduction in student enrollment. Additionally, without having students in our buildings, we found it very challenging to collect the data we need to determine how many of our students are facing poverty. Our current school finance formula accounts for those students when they apply for the free and reduced lunch status. Because students were coming to buildings and because the federal government has been providing funding for schools to feed every child that comes to the classroom, there has been a decreased incentive for families to apply. So, by working outside of our school finance formula, we found a way to take care of our kids in our schools, apply $14.5 million to help those districts in areas of poverty with greatest need. And then we also took care of those smaller rural districts that fell below a 2% reduction in their appropriation for this year. So this package helps bring all of our school districts up to within 2% of what they were appropriated through school finance. And with that, friends, I urge your support for our schools.
Any further discussion? Representative Holtorf. And I also see Representative McLaughlin remotely. We'll let Representative Holtorf go first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for the bill sponsor. As I sit here and discuss the importance of investing in K through 12 education. As we discuss many priorities, and we talk about orbital bills and all these other things we want to invest in the state of Colorado, one of the biggest issues I hear in my district in rural southeastern Colorado, particularly with my small schools, is school funding and the availability of funding. And I'm afraid that my school districts are getting the short end of the stick. Now, Now, I understand that the calculations for funding are based on school counts as of October 1st. I believe that's right. And we all know that a lot of schools, because of COVID-19, aren't going to schools and the school counts are low. But we also know when we recover from this pandemic, which is sooner than later, and those doors open up, the kids are coming. The kids are coming, and the moms and dads that are staying at home are going back to work. Hallelujah. We're all ready for that right now. And many states are moving in that direction. But I will tell you, I want to know if, as you discuss these issues, if you've given 110% consideration to school funding, and where all these other pet projects and orbital bills stacked in the conversation. Because we're investing in things we've never invested in before. And I'm concerned that we're going to underinvest in education, and my school superintendents, my school principals, my athletic directors, my teachers, and the citizenry in my house district, they truly believe that's the number one investment we should be making in this state. But I question if we have it at the top of the list. So that's the question for the representative on JBC.
Representative McLaughlin. McCluskey, and then McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Holtorf. I agree. Public education should be our high priority in this state. That is why we are investing an additional $60 million through this bill to make sure that we bring school districts up within their anticipated appropriation for this school year. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you. And I want to thank my friend from rural southeast Colorado to say exactly what we need to say is that education should be funded. We need all the money we can. This bill is good because it keeps the money consistent with the districts, and they were counting on this, and it holds school harmless. And I strongly support an aye vote on this bill. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 53? Seeing none, question for us is the adoption of Senate Bill 53. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Senate Bill 53 is passed. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 49.
Senate Bill 49 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Public Safety.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 49 on second reading.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the supplemental for the Department of Public Safety, and it really includes two buckets of funding. One is our wildfire stimulus package. As many of you know, DPS is our response agency for wildfires in the state. Because of our devastating wildfire season this last year, we are extending the leases on a wide array of aviation resources to help fight these fires. We need to get these contracts in place as soon as possible so that we're ready to go and prepared for this year's fire season, which I hope is certainly much less. The bill also includes an increase in funding for processing of firearm transfers. This was approved back in September. Increased funding for security at the Capitol, as well as increases for funding on personal protective equipment. In light of the pandemic, we have had to provide our DPS responders with that additional PPE. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion? Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And folks, I also urge an aye vote on this bill. It's a good bill. The money that we are putting towards the Department of Public Safety has been well thought out. We heard from the department. This is all solid money. It's a good request, and I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 49? Seeing none, question for us is the adoption of Senate Bill 49. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Senate Bill 49 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 54.
Senate Bill 54 by Senators Hansen and Rankin, also Representative McCluskey, concerning transfers from the general fund to cash funds to be used to address wildland fires and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have such a great dialogue going on. I move Senate Bill 54 on second reading.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're still talking wildfires. Colorado has never had a more impactful and challenging wildfire season as we saw this past summer of 2020. We are investing $6 million into the Furworm Grant Program, which stands for Forest Restoration and Wildfire Risk Mitigation, an additional $4 million into the Colorado Water Conservation Board, CWCB Construction Fund for watershed restoration, and also an additional $3 million into the Wildfire Preparedness Fund to help us draw down federal dollars for additional grants. I ask an aye vote on this very important and critical effort. Thank you.
Representative Carver was before you, sorry. Representative Carver, did you want to speak? Oh, she's going to yield. Mr. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
An honor to serve with you as well.
It's a august body, and I yield my time to Representative Carver.
Representative Carver does not need your help, I would say.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a most welcome bill. In this body, for the past several years, we have really struggled budget year by budget year to try and squeeze out some additional money for wildfire mitigation, knowing we faced the potential for catastrophic wildfires all over this state, knowing we had massive tree kill from the pine beetle and other pests and the drought stress, knowing that we had communities, as we watched the fires in California, particularly Paradise, burn, knowing we had those same conditions in Colorado. And, you know, Representative McLaughlin, Representative McCluskey, as we saw the need versus what we were funding, that this was always a pressing concern. So obviously in 2020, a horrifying year in so many ways, but certainly the devastation of wildfire was one of the things the state suffered. And so I am so pleased that we are providing significant additional funds for wildfire mitigation. I have communities in my district that every year are in fear of wildfires and flash flooding due to past wildfires. So I'm in strong support of this bill, commend the JBC for its work, and urge an aye vote.
Mr. Assistant Minority, Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Folks, I'd like to put a little bit of context around this because what you just heard from Rep. Carver, I think, is essentially the shell of what we're talking about. As now Senator Hansen used to say, I think I've had every job that you can have, and one of those jobs was logging. And so north of Walden, Colorado is a town of Cowdrey, Colorado, and if you leave Cowdrey and go to the northwest, you come up on Independence Mountain. And the State Forest Service had a timber sale there, and it was not a normal timber sale. It was a timber sale to get rid of dwarf mistletoe, which is an invasive species that attaches itself to trees, sucks out their lifeblood, transfers to another tree, and sort of creates this swath of dead trees in its wake. And so we went up and we cut post and pole out of there. It was a rarity that we were allowed to go and cut timber. And I think people need to think about that for a minute, because what we have done is we've created a system by which we have not managed our forest well. And the end result of not managing your forest well is that you get wildfires that spread quickly, they spread in a devastating fashion, and what really happens is you allow people to build homes and to expand out into the wildland interface, and you put their lives and their properties at risk. And so this is the beginning of a process that I think we actually need to get our brains around, which is we're going to put money toward mitigation. What does mitigation mean? It means managing your forests and working with the USDA and the National Forest Service to make sure that where we go with this is for a healthier forest in the state of Colorado. That actually means cutting some trees, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. There's a reason why the United States Forest Service is located in the Department of Agriculture. And we need to manage it well, and we need to manage it in a sustainable fashion. And sustainable means that you give those young trees a chance to come up, and that means sometimes you cut down the old ones. And you cut them down and you use them for the right uses, Colorado will be on its way to a much brighter future. Thank you for this bill.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 54? Seeing none, question for us is the adoption of Senate Bill 54. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 54 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 55.
Senate Bill 55 by Senator Moreno, also Representative Ransom, concerning the collection of debts owed to the state and in connection therewith, making and reducing an appropriation.
Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 55 and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the Appropriations report.
Thank you. In the Appropriations Committee, we added a couple of conforming amendments. They were simply things that made the bill work between sections, and it was language changes, and they were just conforming amendments. I ask for your aye vote.
Question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations report on Senate Bill 55. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The report is adopted. Back to the bill. Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill, Senate Bill 55, repeals the Central Collection Services Unit that used to be housed in the Department of Personnel. Collections responsibility will move to each agency, each specific department throughout the state. They will have fairly wide latitude to structure collections as they see fit. I ask for your aye vote on Senate Bill 55.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 55? Seeing none, question for us is the adoption of Senate Bill 55. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 55 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 42.
Senate Bill 042 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the offices of the Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and State Planning and Budgeting.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 42 on second reading.
To the bill.
Thank you. The most significant change in the Office of the Governor, which is this supplemental bill, are two investments in economic stimulus, $15 million for funding on our strategic fund, a fund that helps us bring in new business, get new jobs off the ground, and certainly get Colorado back on track with a thriving economy. It also will make a $10 million investment into our Advanced Industries Acceleration Cash Fund. Those dollars will be used for advanced manufacturing, aerospace, bioscience, electronics, energy, natural resources, infrastructure engineering, and technical and information jobs. The goal here, folks, is to help bring our economy back and bring it back strong. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to speak from over there, but then that would be a problem. This bill got a lot of attention, and I think most of you will realize that when we see large amounts and when we see them brought into a department where we realize that department is out doing good things, but not necessarily coming back to the legislature and not necessarily coming back to us to say, what are your priorities? So to make sure that we maintain a focus on those priorities, I move Amendment J016 and ask that it be displayed.
Amendment J016 has been moved and is displayed. Back to the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Folks, this is a footnote, and many of you have heard what footnotes do, and really what they do is they maintain the focus of this assembly on what we're trying to do with these dollars. What kind of created a stumbling block for me in this bill was that where we were sending money was to the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, which I support, but often that money and those dollars are used to attract companies from out of state to come and locate here. A laudable goal. I think we'll all agree. However, right in this minute, folks in Colorado are struggling to survive. Families in Colorado are struggling to survive. Companies in Colorado are struggling to survive. And this footnote, in as clear language as we can get, says, spend your dollars here. Take as much of the money as you can and spend it on companies that have existing operations in this state. Because in this moment, that should be our ethic. That should be our desire to make sure that companies in Colorado with whom we have struggled alongside for the last year of the year from hell, we ought to say, you know what, you guys are the ones that we want to make sure have the first access to these funds. Were you waiting to expand your business and then got shut down because of COVID? Then let's help you expand your business. Were you trying to build a new manufacturing center here in the state so that you could produce more products, and then you could not do that because of the year we've been through? Let us help you do that. I trust the folks in our department at OEdit to make sure that when we say this, they go do it. And what we're asking them to do is make sure the first bite at the apple is given to companies that have existing operations here. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. This is your economy. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minority Leader McKean. I really appreciate your thoughtful assessment of the current situation and the fact that, yes, it is Colorado-owned, Colorado-based businesses that are so near and dear to our hearts and at the heart of each and every one of our communities, and making sure that those Colorado-owned businesses have that extra consideration, I think, is appropriate. This is a friendly amendment, and I appreciate Minority Leader's partnership on this. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually have a question for the amendment sponsor. I think the amendment is actually quite strong. My question is along the lines of the new job creation. What about keeping existing jobs? Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So actually, the language for new job creation is because existing jobs, when we create new jobs as part of it, and this isn't, we didn't put in a dollar amount, so that what we're saying is the benefit will be both, and then they can use that money with their desire for what they think is the best use of those dollars, but it's companies that are in Colorado.
Any further discussion on Amendment J016? Seeing none, the question for us is the adoption of Amendment J016. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The amendment passes. Back to the bill. Any further discussion? Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment J003 and ask that it be displayed.
I heard that. I heard that.
Close.
Representative Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I'm sorry, let me interrupt you real quick. Amendment J003 has been moved, and now it's displayed. It is a two-page amendment, so if anyone, I don't know where else you could find it, but I'm sure someone can help us with that. Representative Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what we're doing with this amendment is taking money from the governor and lieutenant governor, state planning and budget and economic development programs appropriation, and we're moving it to just transition. You know, northwest part of Colorado, and especially my district, has been hugely affected by the power plants and the coal mines. And just transition, you know, we talked about that a long time ago back here in this House floor, and the funding isn't coming forward. And so what it does is we're moving $25 million in the general fund and for just transition.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so members, just as you know, there really has not been any money put towards just transition. I think it was a very nominal amount just to open the office. And one thing that my good colleague from Denver just recently raised is, what about existing jobs here in Colorado? Well, that's what this amendment addresses. The fact that we have 4 coal-fired power plants that Xcel Energy has announced closures on very recently, with the most recent being Pawnee and Brush set to close in 2028 to be converted to natural gas. Comanche number 3 in Pueblo, which is further out in 2040, but closer to where we live, Craig Station number 3 will be 2028, and then the other Craig Station will be 2025. And that's very much also in line with the fact that we also have coal mines that are closing up in Moffat County and Delta County. They're struggling to make it. And it's very important that we fund the transition here. If it's from state policy set out in 2019, that we, as a state legislature, are actually able to help these workers and their families and these communities, because they are about to really struggle, and the time is now to fund them, because it takes time to be able to go back to school, to be able to get a different degree or to change the job. It also takes time if you're a community and you're used to that tax revenue coming in from, these are $100,000 a year jobs, to be able to change and to not necessarily be so reliant on that. So it's very important that we as a state look out for the most vulnerable of communities out there and citizens. And I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Holtorf.
Don't be scared.
I'm sorry, Representative Will. Go for it.
No apologies needed. I just want to make the basically same statement that Rep. Soper said, but we need to get behind this. We can't just give just transition lip service. We got to back it up and really do it and get started on it. You know, these closures are coming up, and we got a lot of employees out there hurting that were in these businesses making good salaries for their families, and we got to quit talking about it and get to work on it. So thank you. Ask for an aye vote.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to announce that this is a just amendment. This amendment, if you think about the people in the country, and you hear me constantly talking about the urban-rural divide, and what we do here and how it impacts the people in the country. Well, we've done some things here that have impacted those folks in northwest Colorado. They didn't ask for it, they didn't want it, but they got it. And it started and was promulgated in this gold dome. And now they have to live with it here in future time. So I would tell you, this is an investment in people. This is an investment in communities. My colleagues, when they bring this forward, are very serious about the future impacts to their communities and the people that they serve. And if those programs are shorted and short-funded and the needs are not being met, then I would tell you we have an obligation here to meet those needs. So I commend my two colleagues who have brought this amendment forward, and I encourage an aye vote.
Representative Pelton, long time no see.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
This is a great amendment. The sponsors of this amendment are right. Rural Colorado, where all the electric generation has been, the power generation, the natural resources production is in rural Colorado. And I keep hearing just transition, and I cannot get a clear definition of what that means. But it means dollars. There's people that are going from, some of them six-figure incomes down to, 30, 40,000. And without some backfill, there's nothing just about that, because we have caused that in this building. So I think we need to put the dollars where they belong, give to these people that they're having to change their lifestyle just because of action taken in this building. So I appreciate this amendment, and I strongly support it.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to acknowledge the intent of my colleagues. I too believe that we need to make investments in just transition, but I don't believe this amendment fits under our title, and I ask for a title ruling.
Committee will stand in brief recess. Committee will come back to order. The chair rules that the amendment does not fall under the title. Back to the bill. Representative Benavides.
Thank you, members. And I'm going to vote in favor of this bill, although I do have some of the same concerns that other members of this body have. I think that this is a great deal of money to be spent in the next 4 months. I had some long conversations with members of OEDIT and the governor's office with respect to these. And with the strategic fund, that right now, because of COVID, there are some opportunities to bring potentially some large firms, especially manufacturing firms, to the state. But in order for OEDIT to be able to make a commitment in these competitive proposal situations, and just so you understand, some of you know, like Amazon, when Amazon wanted to put their headquarters, all kinds of cities and states put in proposals and said, if you come here, this is what we'll give you. We don't have direct money to give to a company to come here. We give incentives that are primarily employment and tax incentives. Like if you come here and you bring so many employees at 100% of, or above of the median wage in where it's going to be located, we will give you a tax offset for that. Or some other aspects of it would still have tax offsets, and until they perform, they don't get it. But we have to commit up front. So because of these unique opportunities, with some of these that can put and develop more jobs directly, and the manufacturing ones seldom come up, I'm told. So it gives them that opportunity, but it is still a very short period of time. The other one is, and let me back up, my other concern was, we give $5 million in general fund annually to this program. This is almost 3 times the amount we give them without full discussion. So I think that raised some real concerns to me, because I take our appropriations authority very seriously. And if we're appropriating this money out of general fund, we got to know exactly what it is. With the $10 million on the acceleration cash fund, those are for competitive grants that OEDIT gives out to businesses. And they have had a large number of grant proposals that they weren't able to fund this year. So they have proposals that are coming in this next month that they may be able to commit to funding several of those. The issue with this, again, going back to our tax dollars, you should know that generally they receive roughly $7 million from gaming industries as a transfer. And they only receive $398,000 in general fund. So going to $10 million extra in general fund is a big leap. And I think that we as the General Assembly, with the responsibility to appropriate general fund, we need to know what we're doing. And so that's my concern. But I have a commitment that we will work on a bill this session that will address, if these monies have not been obligated in this coming year, then that money will revert back, those general funds. So I'm assured that this money, general fund money, will be used to bring business or help existing businesses here to stay open. If that doesn't happen, it shouldn't just sit in some kind of fund. It should come back where we can put it to real use. So I'm satisfied that that will happen and that there will be transparency with regard to this use of general fund. Thank you.
Representative Byrd. I'm sorry, Representative Byrd, actually, Representative Weissman was before you. My apologies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, generally I agree with the sentiments of our colleague from Adams County that we need to be mindful. I think the word investment by Rip McCluskey was properly used. If Rep. Benavidez's comments were sort of fiscal in nature, mine are going to be somewhat thematic. And I want to first clarify, I will be supporting this investment in this bill, but I think that we really need to watch out for in this type of investment and anything else that we do in this vein, in the name of COVID recovery that we do need to be doing, we need to watch out for equity of access to these programs and these investments. We saw last year in some of the things the federal government did in the name of PPP that there were some significant problems. When we are making these investments of tax dollars that run into the tens of millions of dollars, we need to be mindful of things like who has participated in them before and who hasn't, who has access to existing banking or other financial relationships, particularly with big banks, which are probably closer to state and federal government programs, who might be a new member of our community. I come from a city where 1 in 5 people are born abroad, and there are a lot of small businesses that are just as needful of help as anybody else, who may be newer to this whole world of how to deal with the government and complete these applications and so forth, and who may not have access to lawyers and accountants and other professionals to help them. So I appreciate the conversations that I've had with some members of the JBC, and I know that we've had bipartisan legislation by Reps. Herod and Sandridge trying to go squarely at this issue in at least some way. And I think, we've been talking here about the rural versus city divide. I think that members from rural districts ought to be just as concerned about this as I am coming from and representing the city that I am. So again, I'm supportive of what we're doing today, but as we craft legislation, as we think about dividing up appropriations, and as we all interact with the executive branch concerning the administration of these programs in detail, I think that this point of equity of access is deserving of all of our attention. Thank you.
Representative Byrd and then Catlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I just come strongly in support of Senate Bill 42. These funds are needed now more than ever. We are in the midst of a pandemic-induced recession, and we need to be partners in rebuilding the economy we want to see. That's just something important for every one of us to remember when we invest in economic development. That's our community more broadly and largely coming together to design the kinds of jobs and businesses we want to see locate and grow in the state of Colorado. And just by way of speaking only of the Advanced Industries Grant Program alone, since 2014, that program by itself has brought in $1.6 billion in outside investment into the state of Colorado. In addition to that, it's created over 2,000 new jobs in the state of Colorado and helped preserve another 2,000. And these aren't just numbers, members. These are people's livelihoods. This is how people pay for a roof over their heads, send their kids to college. This is new opportunity for the people of our state. So I urge a yes vote on this. Please let's all join together and invest in the type of economy we want to see. One last point I'd like to make about this is when we invest in our economy, this grant program specifically has helped diversify Colorado's economy, making us more resilient the next time we have downward pressure on our economy. We will be more resistant to a recession. People will be able to keep their jobs even as the national economy might be suffering downward pressure. So join with me and please support Senate Bill 42.
Representative Catlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
Thank you. I'm down here to support parts of this bill. The idea of just putting more money out and putting more money out does concern me. But one of the things that was brought up in regards to the rural-urban divide, I got a text this afternoon from a little town called Natarita, and it also is neighbors 3 miles from Nucla. There are very small communities on the west end of Montrose County. They've been impacted greatly by the closing of a coal mine and of a power station. But these folks have an extra piece of leather in their backbone. They're the kind of people that can get knocked down, get back up, and say, well, if that doesn't work, we'll do something different. And that's what they're doing. They're an EDO, and if you read this, there's been money set aside specific for EDOs. I believe there's 10% of the money in this bill is going to those, and that's for rural Colorado. You know, we often talk about rural Colorado, urban Colorado, but the one that gets left out the most is frontier Colorado. And that's just not a cute advertising gimmick. That's an actual listing in the state of Colorado in regards to how big these communities are. Well, over in the West End at Natarita, Nucla, there's an organization called WEEDC, West End Economic Development Committee. And they have done some really surprising things. There's a pathway, a trail out there called Rimrocker. Look it up, because that thing will take you from Montrose County to Moab on the back roads. It helps drain off some of the pressure in Moab and brings it to our county. These folks are that creative. They can do an awful lot of things with not much money. And I'm hoping that we can continue to do those kind of things for those kind of communities. In my district, we have a number of frontier communities. They need some help because they're trying awful hard to help themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Members, I just want you to listen for a second. This is what it should sound like when people are speaking in the well. It's hard when we've got noises bouncing off the wall, so just keep that in mind. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 42? Seeing none, question for the House is the adoption of Senate Bill 42. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No! Senate Bill 42 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 83.
Senate Bill 83 by Senator Hansen, also Representative Herod, concerning the modification of the requirement for the fiscal year 2021-22 that the annual appropriations for student financial assistance for higher education increase by at least the same percentage as the aggregate percentage increase of all the general fund appropriations to institutions of higher education.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill temporarily suspends the requirement that we increase financial aid at the same percentage as we fund the institutions and boards. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative. Will you move Senate Bill 83?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 83. There's no committee report.
Thank you. Representative Ransom.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Folks, I also urge an aye vote on this bill. You may remember that last year, as part of the budget balancing, we cut back on the governing board's funding in JBC in our current the budget year that we're currently in. We cut back the funding for the governing boards, but we did not cut funding for financial aid. The current formula that we have working for higher education requires that anytime we raise funding to the governing boards, that we raise financial aid by an equal percentage. If we restore the money to the governing boards that we decreased it by last year, that would be it would actually be impossible to increase financial aid by the same percentage. So this bill actually trues up it, and that is what, as you know, what we're working on now with supplementals is to make the budget work. We're making last year's budget work. So what we're doing is just for 1 year, suspending the requirement that we increase both governing boards and financial aid by the same percentages. So with that, folks, I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 83? Seeing none, question for us is the adoption of Senate Bill 83. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 83 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 109.
Senate Bill 109 by Senators Hansen and Rankin, also Representatives McCluskey and Harrod, concerning the authority of the Auraria Board to make bond payments from sources other than the revenues generated by the auxiliary facility on behalf of which such bonds are issued in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
That was all one breath. Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 109
to the bill.
There is no committee report. Thank you, members. Senate Bill 109 is a bill that it's a bill. You guys are really listening. That's awesome. Thank you for your attention on this very important bill that does bill things. The Auraria campus has been hard hit with COVID, just like so many of our other facilities. But specifically, they have not been able to collect the revenue that they typically collect for parking fees at the bookstore, the student union, because it's all been closed down during the pandemic or not utilized to its full potential. Therefore, that is causing their inability to pay their debt payments. This bill will allow for half of the state to pick up that payment, and half of the payment will go to come from the institutions. The split is 50-50, $2,750,000 from the state and $2,750,000 from the institutions. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would just add that AHEC, the Auraria Higher Education Center, is a very
I'm sorry, hold on one second. I can't hear the person speaking to me in front of the well. If we could just keep it quieter in the very back. Thank you very much. Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. AHEC is a very unique and special situation. We all know it because it's only a mile away. But AHEC provides all of those support service, auxiliary services for the students that go to school for those three institutions. Unfortunately, AHEC does not qualify for the federal funding that many of our higher ed institutions have received this year, and so they were in desperate need, and I'm really excited to bring this with Rep. Harrod, step up and take care of both the campus as well as all of our students who will be returning there this fall. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 109? Representative Van Winkle.
Hey, Madam Chair. I support this. However, I do want to take the opportunity to encourage the governor and city and county of Denver to reopen Avalanche hockey games, Denver Nugget games, and other things like concerts at Auraria campus, because those are what fund oftentimes the parking structures of Auraria campus, and those parking structures will be filled by money-paying customers soon as we get the Colorado Avalanche back before fans at the Pepsi Center. I ask for a yes vote.
Thank you for that important addition. Any further discussion? Oh, Representative Van Winkle, not done.
My sincere apologies, Madam Chair. It is now the ball arena.
Any further discussion? Senate Bill 109. Seeing none, question for us is the adoption of Senate Bill 109. All of those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 109 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 110.
Senate Bill 110 by Senators Zenzinger and Priola, also Representatives Harrod and Exum, concerning funding for safe revitalization of Colorado's main streets.
Representative Exum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 21-110.
To the bill.
Thank you. Members, this bill is critical in promoting public health and economic activity in safe and creative ways throughout the pandemic and beyond. Colorado wants to do everything we can to help people safely remain active outdoors, from eating on winterized restaurants, patios, and strolling along new sidewalks and trails. The bill allocates $30 million for CDOT to continue investing in communities across the state through revitalizing Main Streets and Safer Main Streets program. And lastly, these quick win activities will improve safety and create new community spaces, encourage healthy activity and mobility in Colorado towns and cities of all sizes. It also is going to create jobs. And I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank my co-prime sponsor for bringing this bill forward. with me to really help us to revitalize Main Streets. Listen, this bill is really important. We're talking about getting people back to work. We're talking about stimulating the economy. We need to get these funds out to our local communities that need them. Some examples of projects that could be funded with this fund, should we approve it, are sidewalks, medians, and paving work in Lamar for $13 million. Bike pedestrian improvements at 3 intersections in downtown Durango for $6.7 million. Signal improvements in Cheyenne Wells and Kit Carson for $700,000. Downtown road repairs and bike lanes in Cortez for $300,000. ADA ramps in Lyman and Kit Carson for $2.5 million. Reconstruction of road and sidewalk portions of I-70B downtown Grand Junction. And we also have some funding for the reconstruction of a portion of CR 314 in Clear Creek County. So, members, I just want to express to you that this is funding that goes directly to our local communities. It is for us to make sure that folks are getting back to work and stimulating the economy through work and obviously their purchasing power. So, with that, I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for sponsors for bringing this. We're going to have a lot of conversations about transportation funding this year, but what this bill represents is a down payment completely out of the general fund for transportation funding, which is something that folks across the aisle in this body have asked for a long time. So there has been a large commitment for out of this budget year to pay for transportation improvements out of the general fund. This is entirely general fund money, and it's entirely for transportation improvements. We're going to have a lot bigger conversation on this policy this year. But just know that this is a sign of good faith. This is a down payment to say we're going to take $30 million that we have right now with no other agreements made yet to put money into transportation from the general fund. We're willing to commit more to that. We're willing to work on that. But this is the money we need to get done right now. This is allowing Main Street operations to allow for outdoor dining, to allow for what's going to happen, to allow for COVID response, and to revitalize main streets across the state. So this is, in my mind, a bit of a no-brainer. But know that this is an appetizer for the conversation we're going to have about transportation funding this year. There's going to be more that comes along. But this is 100% general fund money to transportation, and I hope everybody remembers that when we get further into this conversation later in this year. Thank you.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
And Representative Willen, it's an honor to serve with you. Representative Soper.
I move Amendment L001 and ask that it be properly displayed.
Do you guys do everything together? Representative Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it is an extreme honor to serve with you.
Thank you, Representative.
So what this bill is, we're taking $30 million from the general fund to the state highway fund, provide funding for our,
Representative Will, I'm sorry, we're just waiting for it to be displayed. Give me 1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I actually don't have a copy.
Well, it's got to go through a process, but majority of the
Okay, Amendment L001 has been moved and displayed. Go ahead, Representative Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a transfer of $30 million from the general fund to the highway fund to provide additional funding for the Department of Transportation's revitalization of main streets and for safer Main Street programs. So what this amendment does, Rep. Soper and my amendment here, is we're just going to try to figure out a way to get people to Main Street. So we need some highways fixed so we can get people to downtown. And go ahead.
Representative Soper.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Highway 139 goes from Loma to Rangeley, which is between our two districts. It's one of the furthest highways before you get into Utah, going north and south. And it's one that has definitely been ignored over the years. And quite frankly, it's not only unsafe, but it's a horrible highway. It needs the attention of the state. The hospital, which is in Fruita, is such that they actually service Coloradans from that entire region of Colorado. And if you're in Rangeley and you need a certain medical treatment, that will be the highway they will transport you on to get to a larger hospital. Same is true if you're in Loma. Colorado does have a history of funding very specific highway projects like this, although it has been certainly a number of years before that's been done from the General Assembly. But when there are projects like this that definitely need to be addressed in rural Colorado, or as my good colleague from Montrose County says, frontier Colorado, because quite frankly, by the time you get out to Loma and Rangeley, that's beyond rural. It's definitely frontier. We need to pay attention to all of Colorado. And as Representative Will said, if you can't get to Main Street, how can we revitalize Main Street? So we'd ask for a yes vote.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this is an attack on rural Colorado. Members, the purpose of this Revitalizing Main Streets initiative is so that we can fund not just certain counties, but the entire state of Colorado. And while I appreciate my colleagues advocating for their districts, there is a transportation commission that will allocate the funds respectfully and equitably across the state of Colorado. That is where we should advocate for certain projects in our districts. So I ask for a no vote.
Any further discussion?
Long live rural Colorado.
Representative Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think for me, in amendments today, that was strike 3. So.
But you're not out. You're still in. Question 4 is the adoption of L001. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The amendment fails. Back to the bill. Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the bill, I move L002 and ask for it to be displayed.
L002 has been moved and is properly displayed. Tell us about the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what this amendment does is I know certain members want things for here, certain members want things for over there. I just want more money into our roads and bridges of Colorado so the people of Colorado can get around. And so instead of putting this money to CDOT, which then goes to this Main Streets program, this would just put it in CDOT, and CDOT can do what they need and want with it because they have their list of priorities. They have their list of responses. So under this amendment, it actually broadens the bill and just gives more power to CDOT to spend the money however they want. Now, they could do exactly the list that was presented by the bill sponsors when they brought this up and said these are the projects that need to be done. They could do that very same list, or CDOT could perhaps fund that highway that we were just debating and discussing in Northeast Colorado, or they could do something on C-470, I-25, I-36, something like that. But this, it still transfers the $30 million to CDOT, but it just doesn't do the second part, which is it must go to this specific program that we, the legislature, say it needs to. So with that, I ask for a yes vote, and let's get this money to roads and bridges for all of Colorado.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So CDOT has a 10-year plan that we are working very diligently on in our overall transportation funding program. It obviously costs a lot more than $30 million. There's been a carefully negotiated program in which we have said there's the overall earmark for this year is $200 million. The governor has identified $200 million. We intend to include the other $170 million after this $30 million as part of that program for transportation funding. But we're also working with stakeholders across the entire dang spectrum in trying to figure out how we're going to spend this money. And this is something that everybody has agreed to. I have been a part of more than 75 stakeholder meetings with respect to how we are going to spend this money. And so there is another $170 million that has been earmarked within the budget for transportation funding. Again, that is entirely general fund investment. That is not new money. That's not new revenue. That is money that the general fund is willing to spend into this. But I would decline to do this because we have had very carefully structured negotiations with respect to having this money move forward ahead of the broader transportation funding package. And I would ask to not derail that on a second reading amendment on a supplemental. Thank you.
Representative Holter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, esteemed colleagues. I want to point out to all you something very strange is going to happen right now. And that is that I completely agree with the former representative that spoke here. And here's why. If we just send this money to CDOT without earmark or priority, where does it go? Some people will say it will go into a black hole in CDOT and maybe never make it to the targeted programs that the bill sponsor, the co-prime sponsor, mentioned. And I'm impressed today that the co-prime sponsor actually is talking about towns in my district. That excites me because now the conversation is we want to represent the whole state. We're going to want to talk about the little towns out there and the big city. And we're not going to overlook the rest of Colorado. So I appreciate the discussion about rural Colorado, and I appreciate the discussion about frontier Colorado. But this particular amendment, unfortunately, if we just give it to CDOT, where does it go? Well, I would argue the probability of it going where it needs to go in my House district is near zero. So I will tell you that I will be a no on this amendment.
Any further discussion on Amendment L002? Seeing none, question for us is the adoption of L002. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. L002 fails. Back to the bill. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 110? Seeing none. Oh, Representative Soper.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to come down here and talk more to the bill and the concepts of Main Street improvements. I certainly respect that, especially because a lot of the projects that Representative Herod mentioned do come from rural Colorado. Certainly respect that. However, one thing I will say is that a lot of these projects do come at a cost of eliminating parking spaces in downtown areas. And this is part of a larger philosophical debate that's going on, which is to get to a business, you also need to be able to park in front of a business. And if we're doing more pop-outs and expansion of sidewalks, yes, that may help CDOT be able to move cars through a downtown area faster. But it certainly plays into the question of if you can't park in front of a business, does it really help with the economic improvement of a downtown area? And I believe that there's a lot of issues at play within this bill that everyone ought to really think about. And I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 110? Seeing none, question for us is the adoption of Senate Bill 110. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Senate Bill 110 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 112.
Senate Bill 112 by Senators Garcia and Simpson, also Representatives McCluskey and Will, concerning a 2020-21 state fiscal year transfer from the general fund to the capital construction fund for increased access at certain state parks and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 112 on second reading.
Good to see you again. To the bill.
Good to see you as well. Members, this bill transfers $20 million from the general fund to the capital construction fund for the Department of Natural Resources to make very important infrastructure investments in our state parks. The 12 state parks that are identified cover the entire state. And our state parks are really the the heart of what Colorado's all about, right? Access to the great outdoors. It is important during a pandemic when people have found the outdoors as their only refuge that we make the right investments so that those parks can continue to be available to families for Colorado's future for generations to come. With that, I urge a yes vote.
Representative Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I support this 100%. You know, this is a great bill. This bill affects the entire state of Colorado. I mean, from the north, the east, the south, to the west. And all these, some of the projects that are coming up on here for the state parks. And you also know that, you know, the use of our state parks has increased immensely, and especially because of COVID. The visitation is up off the charts. So, and shout out to Majority Leader Escar on our Fisher Peak state park down there, and in Representative Holtorf's district. So that's going to get $3 million of that out of Fisher Peak for a lot of trail development stuff. Steamboat, there's the north part of it, $1.8 million, which is actually a match for what'll be a $900,000 deal. Ridgeway down there in Rep. Catlin's country, and that's a $1.5 million. Navajo clear in the south, $150,000. Pueblo right down here, $3.2 million. North Sterling, we're headed back out east, $714,000. Jackson, same way, Jackson Lake. Cherry Creek right here in the metro area. Boyd Lake just a little bit north of the metro area, and then Salida East for $1.5 million to upgrade campgrounds. And so this is a much needed bill and funding to keep our state parks. You know, we want to showcase those in this state, and to visitors to this state, let's showcase them. Let's put the money there to do it. Ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 112? Representative Soper.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to come down and speak in support of this. One of the projects within my district is the Cameo shooting range, and it's a world-class shooting range, the largest in Colorado, and it's one that you all definitely ought to check out, but vote yes on this bill. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 112? Seeing none, question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 112. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 112 passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to our last bill on the calendar, Senate Bill 113.
Senate Bill 113 by Senators Fenberg and Rankin, also Representatives McCluskey and Lynch, concerning state funding of firefighting aircraft to respond to wildfires.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's exciting to bring home the big finish. I move Senate Bill 113 on second reading.
To the bill. I was going to give Representative Lynch a shot, but...
And we will. He
Great.
gets to...
To the bill.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. The bill transfers $30.8 million from the general fund to the Colorado Firefighting Air Corps Fund in the Department of Public Safety. These dollars will be used to purchase a Firehawk firefighting helicopter to help Colorado battle one of the greatest threats that we have ever faced, wildfire season. I'm excited to say that we added to this bill additional funding for a Black Hawk lease for this next wildfire season because Firehawks take a while to build, as well as on funding for the use of that Firehawk in its first year. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Representative Lynch.
It's an honor to serve with you.
An honor to serve with you. Welcome to the well.
It's an honor to present the last bill of the day. So I'm going to go slow so we can take this all in. For those of you that don't realize, my district is the home of the Cameron Peak Fire. So while everyone was wearing masks around here, we had another reason to wear masks up north. With the combined fires this year, we lost 515,000 acres.
I'm sorry, Representative Lynch. Members, we're talking about a fire that devastated Colorado. Can we get a little bit of silence and respect for the member in the well? Thank you. Go ahead, Representative Lynch.
515,000 acres were lost. A third of my district is now burnt. Millions of dollars in losses, but more importantly, the losses of homes that people have worked their entire life to build in the remote areas of Colorado that we all love. So this is also fun because we get to see where this money's going. Of all the good bills we passed today, not a lot of them do we get to see a tangible result from it. Today, we get to see a tangible result which will put an asset into our arsenal of fighting fires that could keep this from happening again. You can see that's what a lot of my district looks like. Once beautiful, once green, and now a big bunch of burnt marshmallows. And so this is exciting because this helicopter is also, it's multifunctional, so when it's not fighting fires, we can do search and rescue with it. It can be used for medevac purposes, and I encourage and I vote.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Folks, this is Pinnock Pass. So Pinnock Pass is the road that is the back road between Loveland and Masonville and the Poudre Canyon. And as you take that road and you come out of Masonville and you go behind the hogbacks, you come to Pinnock Pass, which will take you from that road over to Pingree Park. So the mountains you see up in the distance in this picture is the Mummy Range, and at the base of the Mummy Range on this side is the Pingree Park campus for Colorado State University. The reason why this picture means a lot to us, this is Representative Lynch's district. This is the border of my district. This is our watershed. And I think that this is when we start to really talk about what the impact of these fires really is. This fire, and this burn happened in one day. This fire ran 7 miles. It ran 7 miles and burned everything in its sight. And so what we see here is what happens when we don't hit a fire quickly. This fire began right next to a wilderness area. And we all know that wilderness areas, you can't just go and cut firefighting roads in and do all the things you want to do because we have restrictions there. So this fire burned for a while. And then the wind blew and the temperatures rose and it burned a little more and it burned more and it burned more and it burned more. What we see as the benefit of having firefighting aircraft that we control is that when this is a small fire in a wilderness area, we can go drop water on this in a hurry. I have a video I would have played, but I won't because I didn't ask the majority leader if I could. But it's of a Chinook helicopter that was costing us over $12,000 an hour to have drop water on this fire after it ran. And I was at Horsetooth actually cutting down some trees for some homeowners over there to get a little bit of defensible space around their houses. And that Chinook came through, and every 10 minutes he would take a load of about 1,000 gallons. Guess what the Firehawk can carry? About 1,000 gallons. It can fly at night. It can fly in high winds. It can hit these fires when we can still get them small, so that the other money we spent today for control of our forests and mitigation of our fuels can actually do its job. So I don't think there are a lot of people that are going to be in opposition to this in this chamber today, but this is why. There are people's homes that are at the bottom of this valley. There is one bush at the bottom of this valley that got an entire dump of fire retardant on it that's not going anywhere. But I can promise you, the people who drive this road every day down Pinnock Pass to get to their house, they think about what could have been. And they think about what our job is to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to add a couple thoughts to this as well. This is one of those it's about dang time bills. Every time we run into this challenge, and we know it's an annual challenge, this does not go away. And part of our job to tend our garden, our forest, is to fight these fires. They come every year, and we get frustrated because we don't always have the aircraft available to us, and the reason is because we're in competition with other states for these assets, these flying assets. This would be ours, Colorado's, that we would control, and there's another added benefit to this that I just learned about an hour ago. Sikorsky, that makes the Black Hawk, is owned by Lockheed Martin, a company with a large presence here in Colorado, so there's a benefit there, but once that helicopter, that Black Hawk, is purchased, it'll be flown to Centennial Airport, where a local company will outfit, a Colorado company will put that big old tank on the belly of that Black Hawk and turn it into a Firehawk.
So there's a lot of money being spent right here in Colorado for the sake of Colorado for a very long time. This is an asset we should have had for some time, a long time ago. I'm really glad that we're coming together to authorize the purchase of that asset right now, because our firefighters truly need it and deserve our support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 113? Representative Pico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in support of this amendment. The price of this helicopter might be a little bit eye-watering, but once you start packing all the equipment inside of it, prices escalate pretty quickly. For those of you who don't know, I used to be in NORAD, a U.S. Northern Command, and part of what we call Defense Support Civilian Authorities. I was there during the Hayman Fire, during Katrina, and then I was in City Council during the Black Forest Fire, on the receiving end of this. That whole defense program puts federal assets to states for firefighting support, but only when the state assets are fully engaged. If you don't have it, then you got a problem. So the feds will come help you, but it is incumbent upon the state to have those assets as well. There's nothing more important than firefighting as a state responsibility for our forests. So I urge a yes vote.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I also rise in support of this. In addition to the fire element, I just wanted to touch on the search and rescue element. So right now in western Colorado, if we have to use search and rescue helicopters, we use CenturyLink's helicopter. But it's a touch and go situation because it's not always available for search and rescue operations. So being able to have a state asset certainly would be of use. I would like to see it stationed on the western slope, not necessarily on the Front Range. So maybe one day we can buy a second one. So, Representative McCluskey. So that's my plug right there. Thank you.
Representative Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Likewise.
I'll keep this short, but this is kind of one of those deals where it's in the ounce and the pound of cure, ounce of prevention. This is it, and we spend so much in fire suppression and firefighting in this state, and this is a small ask to get early attacks on some of these fires. I think it'll save itself and pay for itself multiple times over. So I'm a yes.
Representative Hanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This Firehawk will probably pass. My only concern on it, and it goes back to what Representative Will just made a comment on, and Soper, it would be nice to have one on the western slope. Hyundai had an ad several years ago, 30 years ago, when they were first breaking into the market, saying you could buy 2 Hyundais for the price of a Chevrolet, and I'm wondering if maybe that isn't a course of action we should have looked at, buying a less fancy firefighting helicopter and buying 2 of them. In the future, it'd be nice to disperse our assets rather than having one and trying to get it to all 4 corners of our wonderful state. Thank you.
Representative Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I have just one simple question. We always hear and see all the forest fires. We have fires out on the plains with CRP and such. Is this a aircraft that could help combat those kind of fires fast? Because when they happen out on the plains, they happen fast.
Representative Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The nice thing about this asset is it can go fast. And so, I mean, that's the big drawback we would have with other assets, but it can move out and it can get out there about as fast as any other air asset that we have.
Representative Pico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to second that, aviation assets are inherently mobile, so if you need the asset on the western slope or anywhere else, and get there in about 2 hours. That's pretty quick.
Representative Ortiz.
As someone that used to fly these assets, I mean, it's very clear the impact that they can have, at least visibly in a fight. We're talking about a different kind of fight here now, fighting wildfires. And if you look up the specs of what the Firehawk can do and the versatility of it, this is a great investment. We do have to start somewhere. I hope this will be the first of many. And as someone that comes from a district where Lockheed Martin is based out of and around, I wholeheartedly support this. I love the comment that one of my esteemed colleagues made about it's going to not only be able to combat the wildfire situation, but also be going back into the economy here in Colorado. I urge an aye vote.
Representative Hanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not to argue with a member on my side of the aisle, but one asset doesn't do us a lot of good if we have two fires. So I'm just saying, for the sake of efficiency of the money we had, might we not have looked at getting two UH-60s that aren't Firehawks? They carry about 800 gallons at this elevation, so not that much difference in capacity, maybe in loading and some of the other fancy stuff. But in the Air Force, there was always the argument, do you need to pay for a stealth fighter when two F-16s can get the job done in many other circumstances? So thank you.
Rep. Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to my colleague from House District 38, but I did want to correct a grave error. The fine residents of House District 22, in conjunction with the representatives in Mr. Baisley's district and Ms. Cutter's district, are the proud home of Lockheed Martin, not House District 38. But I do like helicopters and vote yes.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 113? Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair, esteemed colleagues. I will tell you that there's a lot of controversy in this investment. But with what has happened the last, I would say, you can go back 15 or so years, that it does require an investment. And if we are going to make the investment, I would argue we need to make the investment in the latest technology that is available. I think it's been thoughtful. I think the Firehawk does have additional capabilities. And if there's one thing you learn in fighting any situation, that when you need that extra capability, the extra flight speed, the extra capacity, the extra lift, particularly in the summer, that if you're going to make this investment, you might as well spend the extra money on the extra features and options that are going to give you that extra capability. So this particular helicopter, you know, it's going to be very hard to do the things you want to do with one helicopter in the state. Granted. And I would argue that when we have the good times, which will come, then we ought to consider additional investments in all the firefighting capabilities that are available. But I appreciate the bill sponsors bringing this forward. I know it's controversial. It's a significant expense. I understand there may be some federal dollars that go with this. But when it comes to fighting fires, if you consider and have the resource available and able to pre-position, in the military we call it pre-po the asset, and be conscious about that, and that's the firefighters' roles. For those of you in the back that may be listening or may not be listening, I will tell you that if this investment can pay for itself by stopping a fire and stopping the damage next summer, it probably will pay for itself in the cost savings of damage to the state. Now, does the state get all that money back? No, but the citizens of the state get paid back by not having the damage. So, I will tell you that as we move forward, this investment is most likely a necessary investment at this time.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 113? Seeing none, question 4 is the adoption of Senate Bill 113. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 113 passes.
Pardon me, ma'am.
What happened to our sanitizer?
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
You've heard the motion. Committee will rise and report.
The House will come to order. Mr. Gregorio, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report it as under consideration considered the following attached bills being second reading thereof and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1009, 1045 as amended, House Bill 1061, 1126 passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 19, Senate Bill 41, Senate Bill 42 as amended, Senate Bill 43, Senate Bill 44, Senate Bill 45, Senate Bill 46, Senate Bill 47, Senate Bill 48, Senate Bill 49, Senate Bill 50, Senate Bill 51, Senate Bill 52, Senate Bill 53 as amended, Senate Bill 54, Senate Bill 55 as amended, Senate Bill 83, Senate Bill 109, Senate Bill 110, Senate Bill 111, Senate Bill 112, Senate Bill 113 passed on second reading and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1106 laid over until 3/8/21 and retaining their place on the calendar.
Nice job, Mr. Gregorio. Representative Tipper. There are amendments at the desk. Mr. Gregorio, please read the Carver amendment to the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Carver moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Carver Amendment, L003 to Senate Bill 21-111, to show that said amendment passed and that Senate Bill 21-111 as amended passed.
Members, thank you very much. Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the Carver Amendment to the Committee of the Whole. This would move $3.9 million of the $4 million that's designated for marijuana startups for those holding social equity licenses, and instead have that $3.9 million go for drug treatment. I ask for an aye vote.
That amendment has been properly moved and displayed. Is there further discussion? Representative Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While I appreciate my colleague's intent here from El Paso County, I look forward to working with her on more bills to support substance use funding in the state of Colorado. I do respectfully ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Is there any further discussion on the Carver Amendment to the Committee of the Whole? Seeing none, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Those online or remote, Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
No.
Representative McLaughlin votes no. Representative Lontine, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Lontine votes no. Representative Titone, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Titone votes no. Representative Michelson-Janae, how do you vote? And we couldn't hear you.
No.
Thank you very much. Representative Michelson-Janae votes no. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Jackson votes no. Representative Valdez, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Valdez votes no. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Judah votes no. And Representative Rich is excused. Representative Arndt is also excused. I think a $5 fine for Representative Arndt. I know. Please close the machine. With 23 aye votes, 40 no votes, and 2 excused, the Carver Amendment to the Committee of the Whole is lost. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to the first Soper Amendment to the Committee of the Whole report.
Representative Soper moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Soper and Will Amendment L001 to Senate Bill 21-110 to show that said amendment passed and that Senate Bill 21-110 as amended passed.
Representative Soper.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. What this amendment does is it puts funding towards Highway 139, which goes from Loma to Rangeley. It's very important that we take care of our state roads, especially those that are in rural Colorado. Thank you.
And do you mind, you don't have to, but I would encourage you to move it and ask for it to be displayed.
Thank you. I move the amendment and ask that it be displayed. I appreciate that, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, you got that. No
No,
problem.
we're still a little rusty here.
No worries. We're just getting the engine started. That has been properly moved and displayed. Is there further discussion on the first Soper Amendment to the Committee of the Whole report? Representative Herod and Representative
Thank you,
Herod.
Mr. Speaker. I ask for a no vote on this lovely amendment.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would ask for a vote on this once again. Again, this is part of a broader conversation we're having about transportation funding across the state. This program, as it's designed already by CDOT, will provide investment across the state in rural, urban, suburban communities alike. And there's been a ton of work that's gone into this. Trust me, y'all, You're going to get to do a ton of work on transportation funding moving forward as well, but I'd ask to not disrupt it with respect to an amendment that's phased, so I'd ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So really, we're just trying to make Representative Gray's job easier. So if we can just take a few of these projects off his list, then it seems like it would benefit the overall effort because it's not such a heavy lift. Just trying to help you out, Rep. Gray.
Okay. Is there further discussion on the first SOPR amendment to the Committee of the Whole? Seeing none. The question before us is the adoption of the SOPR amendment to the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Remote. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
No.
Representative McLaughlin votes no. Representative Lontine, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Lontine votes no. Representative Tatone, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Tatone votes no. Representative Michael St-Genet, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Michael St-Genet votes no. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Jackson votes no. Representative Valdez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Valdez votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Judah votes no. Representative Ricks. Please close the machine. With 17 aye votes, 46 no votes, and 2 excused, the first SOPR amendment to the Committee of the Whole report is lost. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to the second SOPR amendment to the Committee of the Whole report.
Representative Soper moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee not adopting the following Soper Amendment, L004 to Senate Bill 21-111 to show that said amendment passed and that Senate Bill 21-111 is amended passed.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the second Soper Amendment to the Committee of the Whole report.
Great. And it's properly moved. Do you mind, well, you don't have to display it, but it might help.
And ask that it be properly displayed.
That's great. It's been properly moved and displayed. Go ahead, Representative Soper.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, after 2 or 3 of these, we're getting back into the cycle of things, which is kind of rough. So what this amendment does, you probably remember the robust debate that we had a few moments ago talking about this, but if we're going to move $4 million for marijuana entrepreneurs in Colorado, I believe it's important that it goes through the University of Colorado system, or at least 3.5 million of that, so that if you're going to be going down this path, at least it's proper education, looking at the research side of things, and not just throwing out money to people who want to go sell marijuana. At least have this be a structured process. So I would encourage a yes vote. Thank you.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I take offense to saying we're just going to throw out money to people. This is a structured process run by our department of, our OEdit department. So clearly, this is what they do. So I ask for a no vote on this cow.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the second SOPR amendment to the Committee of the Whole report. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Remote. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
No.
Representative McLaughlin votes no. Representative Lontine, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Lontine votes no. Representative Tatone, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Tatone votes no. Representative Michael St-Genet, how do you vote?
Votes no. Representative Michael St-Genet, how do you vote? No.
Representative Michael St-Genet votes no. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
no.
Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Jackson votes no. Representative Valdez, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Valdez votes no. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Judah votes no. Please close the machine. With 17 aye votes, 47 no votes, and 1 excuse, the second SOPR amendment to the Committee of the Whole is lost. Mr. Gregorio, please read the first Van Winkle amendment to the Committee of the Whole report.
Representative Van Winkle moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee not adopting the following Van Winkle Amendment, L001 to House Bill 21-10009 to show that said amendment passed and that House Bill 21-10009 is amended passed.
Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the first Van Winkle amendment to the Committee of the Whole report and have it displayed, please.
It's been properly moved and displayed. Representative Van Winkle, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the amendment that includes rural Colorado into the bill for the chance that some of the funding, it's the rural Colorado amendment that the sponsor called unfriendly to save the second speech at the Wells. I ask for a yes vote.
Is there further discussion on the Van Winkle amendment? Seeing Representative Weissman.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this actually goes back to a bill that we discussed this morning concerning some pretty minimal updates to the function of the Division of Housing in the Department of Local Government. Look, I think there is a conversation to be had here. It is unfortunately not as blunt an instrument as this specific statutory percentage. As a colleague alluded to, we do have definitions in statute about what is a small county, a rural county, a frontier county, based on population. That kind of thing would be appropriate to work with here. One thing I know from having worked extensively with the Division of Housing over the years is that flexibility is key. They need to be able to respond to market conditions. They basically provide gap funding to other sources of funding in what they do. This is not the right response to this issue at this time, so I do ask for a no vote with respect.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none. The question before the body is the adoption of the first Van Winkle amendment to the Committee of the Whole report. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Representative Lontine, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Lontine votes no. Representative Tatone, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Tatone votes no. Representative Michelson-Janae, how do you vote?
Michelson-Janae, how do you vote? No.
Representative Michelson-Janae votes no. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Jackson votes no. Representative Valdez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Valdez votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Judah votes no. Representative Ortiz. Please close the machine. With 28 aye votes, 36 no votes, and 1 excuse, the first Van Winkle amendment to the Committee of the Whole report is lost. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and, Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to the second Van Winkle amendment to the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Van Winkle moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Van Winkle Amendment L002 to House Bill 21-10009 to show that said amendment passed and House Bill 21-10009 as amended passed.
Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the second Van Winkle amendment to the Committee of the Whole report and ask that it be displayed.
Thank you, Representative Van Winkle. It has been properly moved and displayed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the amendment that calls for a focus on economic growth and opportunity instead of, quote, increasing housing density. I ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I respectfully ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the second Van Winkle amendment to the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
No.
Representative McLaughlin votes no. Representative Lontine, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Lontine votes no. Representative Tatone, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Tatone votes no. Representative Michelson-Janae, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Michelson-Janae votes no. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Jackson votes no. Representative Valdez, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Valdez votes no. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Judah votes no. Representative McCluskey. Please close the machine. With 23 aye votes, 41 no votes, and 1 excused, the second Van Winkle amendment to the Committee of the Whole is lost. I think that is the end of our amendments. The question before us is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote on the Committee of the Whole report?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Representative Lantine, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Lantine votes yes. Representative Titone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Titone votes yes. Representative Michelson-Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson-Janae votes yes. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative Valdez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Valdez votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, please close the machine. With 42 aye votes, 22 no votes, and 1 excuse, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. That brings us to announcements and introductions. We're going to go to Representative Herod, and then Representative Holtorth will come down after that. Representative Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Appropriations Committee, we will be meeting on Monday morning at 9:30. Monday morning, 9:30, Appropriations Committee. We'll see you there.
Thanks so much. Representative Holtorth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues. I had pulled up a article written in the Fence Post about the show, the livestock show that was held in Oklahoma City, because we did not hold the National Western Stock Show. And I'm unable to bring this up because I really wanted to read the article, but I'm going to try to paraphrase and use my memory, which may fault me a little bit, but here's my point. Oklahoma City welcomed those livestock shows. And the governor of the state of Oklahoma has already stated he wants them to come back. The article pointed out how that particular event, and it wasn't the entire National Western Stock Show, but it was components of the National Western Stock Show that we hold here in Denver, that are important to all of us who have been in Colorado for many years. It's part of our culture, it's part of our state. The governor of the state of Oklahoma has already said he wants that back. Representatives made quotes, Oklahoma state representatives made quotes about how they are going to try to convince elements of the National Western Stock Show, those breed shows, those association shows, to come back to Oklahoma. In the article, they declared publicly that made over $50 million of revenue from hosting those shows. Here is the announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to take very seriously, as legislators in the state of Colorado, both my urban friends, and I see one of them right back there in a very nice black suit, and our rural friends. We have got to make sure the National Western Stock Show comes back to Colorado and to Denver. Now, I would argue this is serious as a country boy seeing what I see. I won't get into the finer details, but ladies and gentlemen, we need to invest in the National Western Stock Show. We need to win over those livestock breed associations, and we need to win over the overall sentiment of our livestock industry to say, we love you, we want you to come back. I am asking all of us to change the trajectory of what is happening in this state. I'm begging you to stop any discussions about or any movements against our livestock industry and that sector, because I will tell you, we are going to lose in the war of public opinion in the places I come from as a country boy that wears boots every day and makes a living on the land. we're going to lose. And I don't want Colorado to lose.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. And I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say we agree. And again, I want to be careful not to talk about policies in the well during announcements and introductions, but this is an important topic, and Representative Lynch and I were talking about it just today. So we hear you. Thanks for sharing. Okay, additional announcements and introductions. Seeing none. We have I actually have a bunch of work I have to continue to do, so can we just lay over into recess? Madam Majority Leader.
That was my plan for you, Mr. Speaker, because I want you to keep working. But the rest of you can go home. I move that the House stand in recess until later today.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. The House will stand in recess until later today.